All right, welcome everybody to the presentation today. And I'm going to share my screen and hand it off to the students.
Hi, we're from the University of Washington, Bothell, and we're working with the Latino Educational Training Institute. And today's presentation will be about navigating college applications and financial aid. Next slide. So this is my colleague, Bia, and she is a Brazilian immigrant that immigrated to the US 7 years ago. She's a third-year student at the University of Washington, Bothell. She is studying for a global studies major and a Portuguese minor. Next slide. This is Tylee Casanera. She is an Argentinian immigrant who moved from Washington State in 2012. They are currently studying at the UW Bothell with a major in culture, literature, and the arts with a minor in Spanish. Next slide. And I'm Marta. I'm a first-generation student, currently a junior at the University of Washington, Bothell. I am majoring in health studies and minoring in global health. And next slide. This is another colleague, Jessica Ambris Madrigal. She is also a first-generation student and a parenting student. She is currently a senior at the University of Washington, Bothell, and is studying educational studies with a minor in diversity. And this is my colleague, Maddie McMahon. Maddie is a non-traditional student, and she is in her 40s and is a parent of 2 teen boys. She is a senior at the University of Washington, Bothell, and she is majoring in media communications with a minors in human rights and public policy. The topics that we will be discussing today are Running Start, the process of applying to college, financial aid, personal statements, learning in depth of who you are as a person, navigating college for both parents, what to expect for your child and what you can expect for your student, what would college be like, what's the culture like, connecting with your peers and clubs and different organizations. How does college change you? And you'll get to hear some of our stories, and navigating the stressors in college.
Hi, my name is Tylee. So the process of applying to college can be a little bit different for everyone. So the first thing that you want to figure out is the path that fits your situation like the best. So you want to take into account all aspects of your life when applying to college. You need to take in your financial situation, where you live, how are you going to get to the college, what is the best college for your situation? Do you plan to change your situation to go to the college that you want? And then after you kind of figure out what path or what college or whether college is even right for you, the second thing that you want to do is look at the essays and the essay applications. So some colleges have different requirements, but most will expect an essay. which they will have a prompt for on their website. After that, you kind of need to take a look at your own transcripts, and that usually includes checking in with your SAT scores and your ACT scores. Not all colleges ask this. Community colleges do not. But when you kind of check your path that best suits your situation, you're gonna want to take into account whether you need to take the ACTs or the ACTs. The next step is, if this applies to you, applying for financial aid. And this can also entail scholarships as well. And then after that, you need to check if you actually got accepted and how much financial aid was offered. So just because you applied for financial aid doesn't mean that you will get the full amount that you need. And then, yeah, Jessica just commented that not all colleges ask for SATs and ACTs now. So you wanna make sure that when you are looking at universities, look at what they ask for when you are applying for it. Especially since now they're doing a lot more holistic acceptances, and they won't require this anymore. Okay, next slide. Okay, another path that is kind of a good idea to think about, at least, is Running Start. So Running Start is a program offered in Washington State and some other states as well. And it's where you get to take college classes while you are in the last 2 years of your high school. And this both gets credits towards an associate's degree and credits towards your high school graduation. So before you ask yourself whether you want to do Running Start, here are some benefits and some cons. So the benefits of doing Running Start is that you can acquire both an associate's degree and a high school diploma. There is an incredible flexible schedule. You get college credit. There's more classes with a lot more different subjects. There is more testing flexibility with standardized testing and ACT and SAT scores and stuff like that. So you will have a lot more exposure to more cultures and different lifestyles when you're in college. And Running Start is an awesome opportunity to do networking and look for jobs. However, there are some cons as well. So while Running Start is not the same as paying full tuition, it is also not free. You will have to figure out transportation. And if you fail a class or you do not great on one, it does have more impact on your transcript if you continue to pursue education. If this is the extent of your education, I wouldn't worry too much about it. There is more homework per class in Running Start. Professors have a much higher expectation of your work. And another big con is that for a lot of people, I know that it was for me when I did Running Start, was that you have to get your class list approved by your guidance counselor at your high school before you can register. This can kind of cause some conflict with the classes that you want to register and the classes that you need to register with. And then a last con that I would keep in mind is that there's not going to be as many teenagers or people your age in Running Start. So you do have to kind of adapt to not everyone being in the same, I guess not everyone having the same life experiences that you do. But in my experience, Running Start has been really helpful, but you do need to take into account the cons. Next slide. And this is just the slide in Spanish, so we can skip this one as well. Okay. I'm going to talk a little bit about personal statements, so personal statements are different than academic essays, and they are also different than narratives or stories. And this is the ways that they're different, but also a little bit more detail about them. So personal statements have elements of essays and elements of narratives. So they address your story, but they also have a structure which they follow the prompt that your university of choice has given you. And they should have somewhat of a thesis or a point to your essay. They should show who you are. And what I mean by this is they shouldn't talk about, you can talk about other people like your family and people who have impacted you, but at the end of the day, it should be about you and who you are as a student, especially. And this is a good point to explain why you would be a good fit at the school that you're applying to. So what I mean by this is if you're applying to, let's say, a Christian academy and you are not Christian, maybe think about how you would fit into that school and talk about that. And then personal statements should also address why you want to go to the school that you are applying to. This is different than addressing how you would fit into the school. This is more program related, and this shows the university that you really took into account what they have to offer. And a way that I did this when I was applying to UW is I looked at the classes that they offered, and I also looked at specific programs, and I quoted what their program goals were and why I would have fit into those goals. That is what I highly recommend people to do when they're writing personal statements. And then the last point that I have here is that personal statements are a great opportunity to explain the less satisfactory aspects of your transcript. So in my experience, in high school, I failed science. So I used my personal statement to explain why I failed and how I did better the next time. So always take advantage of the fact that the personal statement is your chance to show who you are outside of your grades. But that's all I have to say on that. Let's go to the next slide, please. So what we'll be discussing next, we kind of already touched on what we're going to discuss, and this is kind of a slide introducing the break, but since we are kind of skipping the break, we can go to the next slide titled Navigating College.
Hi, so we're just going to talk about a little bit for parents on what they can expect from their kids, and just for kids to also understand just a little bit and try a little bit to understand their parents' side and how they're feeling after their kids leave from home. So one of the main things is that sometimes your kids might have to move out depending on the college they attend, if it's out of state or if it's just further away from home. Many colleges require freshmen to move in. So that's another application, that's more money. So it's something that needs to be taken into account as well and looking into colleges. And if they do move out, or if they are more busy, which they will with the more coursework, there's a chance they won't be able to talk or call you or spend as much time with family. But that's okay. It doesn't mean that they don't like you or they don't miss you. I know that for me, I went out of state for a couple quarters, and it was really difficult not to have my mom there. But I also didn't want to be calling all the time. But towards the end, I was calling her basically every day, just so I could talk to her because I missed her so much. So I promise they do miss you. Sometimes they're just really busy. And they will become more independent, whether you are ready for it or not. But once you do go into college or any other type of institution, it does help you become more independent. It's the next slide. So go ahead, Martha.
So to start off, for students, what you can expect is attending your classes is an important part of your college experience. You really need to go to your classes in order to understand the material and have conversations with your peers, and not just be reading your assignments and not skipping your classes. That's not a good way to learn. So if you're open and ready to have conversations about the material. That'll help you learn so much because you get to listen to other people's perspectives, and you can get a well-rounded like answer or just thoughts about like a certain topic. Advice would be mapping out your time. So kind of having a schedule to keep track of all your activities. I know it's important to like not get into too ahead of time. So sticking to a schedule might help you stay organized, because going to college, you have to be on track of all your assignments. So not just the ones that are due that specific day, but you have to be looking out a few days ahead so that you're not coming to that point where, oh, I have to do multiple assignments on a day. So you kind of have to like manage your time in that sense. But most importantly, to make some time for taking care of yourself. It might be hard to like being in the rush of, oh, I have to do this and that, but just taking some time to breathe and take care of yourself is important. And it could be a variety of ways, whether it's like doing something you love, like drawing, or drawing, taking a walk, exercising, just those little things that you used to do when you were not that busy, like helps you keep sane in a way and healthy. And also it's also important to take some time to be with your friends. It may be difficult with your different schedules, since everybody is after high school goes their separate ways, but it doesn't have to be the end all of your relationships with your friends. So just taking the time to like message your friends, or like having a time to meet up is important, so you don't lose that connection with them and yourselves. And for studying is an important part of your college experience. So if you could just mark some time out of your day to study beforehand, especially if you have classes that have midterms or finals that are like test based. So it's just important to like kind of study a little bit in between before those big tests or exams that make up a huge part of your grade for the most part. And I will now pass off to my colleagues to share some of their personal stories about college and how it changed them.
I guess I can go. So I guess the main thing that I would say about college, and at least from my point of view, that was the most difficult for me, was getting used to making friends when it was really difficult for me, especially, and I wasn't, that's something to consider as well when you're choosing which college you wanted to apply, how big class sizes are. Because in a 400 size lecture hall, you're not going to don't have time to talk. The professor will be making most of the talk, and you won't get to meet people. So it's really important to put yourself out there. And I know it's hard, like I'm not an outgoing person as well. I'm very much an introvert, but I promise you, everybody else out, like especially if you're a freshman going into college, everybody else is just as scared and nervous to make friends. So if you make a little bit of an effort and people notice that, they will talk to you as well.
I have a similar story to Bia, how at the beginning of college, I really wasn't outgoing at all. And I still struggle a little bit with finding people to make friends with, but college has taught me something really valuable, which is self-advocacy. So after going to college, I was able to tell people what I need and when I need it, rather than letting other people take control of my life, essentially, and my narrative. And that has been incredibly useful. And then I would also like to add that college won't change you 100%. You're not going to come back from college and be a completely different person than when you began. the college gives you the tools and the resources to make more knowledgeable decisions about your life. And it also gives you ways to articulate what you are thinking a lot better. So what it might come off as a complete change, in reality is just a more eloquent version of the person who went before you went to college, essentially. So I wouldn't be too scared about a complete change, but also embrace change that does happen because it will be for your benefit. Okay. So we can move on to the next slide, I think. So we have a colleague here. I believe Jessica also wanted to talk a little bit on this slide. Or is that this one?
Yeah, of course I'll talk. So a little bit about some ways in which some things that can really affect you when you're navigating college could be money, illnesses or family illnesses, balancing with socializing, taking care of your health and mental health, family issues and responsibilities. Sometimes quizzes, tests, finals, and presentations can give a lot of people anxiety. It can be really hard to be in that moment and like not stress all the time about it. Some things that I do to really help cope with these things that happen is always plan ahead, drink water. I told my sister to live on campus because then she'll have more time to like plan her own day, whereas I'm home where we have to do chores or we have to take care of siblings or have to do other things. And I thought since she's a STEM major, it would be better for her to just be over there and be able to take care of herself and her own needs. And then find community. For me, I find community in multiple spaces. Even if we are in a pandemic, there's still like ways in which you can get involved on campus. For me, that's being part of the Latinx Student Union Club, being a student government, and other spaces, as well as working on campus. I feel like you can find community in those spaces as well. And a big place that's been community for me is the Diversity Center, which is just, it's meant to like embrace like like different cultures and queerness and just lots of identities that are marginalized. And for me, it's just been an amazing space. And I totally recommend you to get into those spaces and find things that you might find in common. Where personally, when I was like in high school, I never really felt like I was part of the school. I was kind of felt outed, and I didn't actually do anything in high school. And it's interesting, like everyone said earlier, being in those spaces that you wouldn't think of, or just putting yourself out there, I think is really important. As well as working out before studying. I work out just because it helps make it my day like have a little bit of structure and kind of want to start the day, because there's days where I'm like, oh, homework, oh, I really have to study, or I really have to do this essay. It kind of gets me in the routine. Also starting with my day with yoga or meditation, I feel like it gets my mind off of it. It gets me ready for the day. And also in the night, I know some folks like before they go to sleep, they do meditation and yoga, because it really helps clear out the mind and not have to sleep with that stuff. Because sometimes we can take different things that are going on, our stressors, about money or illnesses or anything that's going on around you, and like sleep with them and wake up and feel even more tired. So totally recommend that, as well as planning out your courses. Sometimes advisors are not going to tell you what courses you need to take, and they won't tell you if they're available or not in the future. And it's always really important to know when to do that, and if you can petition classes and how that looks like. Yeah. Does anyone else want to add anything else they do to navigate with stressors?
Sure, I'll share a little bit. So Jessica, earlier you said how finding a community like really helps with your stressors, and I found that as well. So through Running Start, I was able to find a job as a writing tutor on campus. And that has created a community and a study space all in one, which is immensely helpful if during finals, during presentations, because I have a community of coworkers that all care about the same thing, which is helping people and writing. And then I also have a community of people who are really smart and can help me study and hear me out when I have a presentation and give me solid advice. So if you are struggling to find a community, I would consider applying for an on-campus job, because that is one of the easiest ways to find the community and also get money at the same time, which can also eliminate some of that money stress. And then with working out, I don't really work out as much, but one thing that is a benefit of having a somewhat large campus is the walking. Although the Bothell isn't quite that large, finding like a good path or just walking back and forth whenever you get the break is an awesome way to, I guess, quote unquote, work out and also kind of meditate a little bit. And it is so helpful. I resisted working out a lot in college because I didn't want to. But then once I started at least walking, my stress just went way down. I highly recommend just doing something. But if anyone else in this presentation would like to state what has helped them navigate college a little bit better.
Tylee, add, even if it's like 5 minutes, just having a nature walk is like super helpful, especially if you're there. Like I know when prior, like I took a little bit of like calculus and chemistry classes. In those classes, you have to learn so fast paced because you're given 3 months to learn literally like 4 or 5 chapters. I might even more, I think. And like you have to keep going, and like there's no time to think, but always give yourself like room and patience to learn, and always take breaks, because if you continue to like just study all day, it can actually develop like chronic back pain. It can be really bad for the future and your tendons and all that stuff. So be careful with that too. So take care of your health, because you're young right now, but later on, we don't know. Yeah.
And I would also like to add, especially if you choose to stay at home and you have those responsibilities for yourself at home as well, apart from school, just letting your family know, or whoever you live with know, that you might need to take some time for yourself, especially to do your assignments, and have some time for yourself. And just so they know that not because you're busy not being with them. It's important for you to have your own space to be able to focus, and so that they can understand that your schoolwork and everything is important to you as well, so they can kind of give you that space and not have that pressure, I guess. So they're helping you out in an immense way.
And if they don't understand, just go to a library and say you had a class. That's what I used to do, because my parents didn't really understand. I just go to the library by my house, or go to the library at school and just stay there. Yeah.
Yeah, that works too. Trust me, I've done it all, especially since going to school. You have to they kind of expect you to come right back. So it's good for you to stay at campus sometimes, so you can focus and not just come back and you're back in that same routine. So having that time at school is beneficial in that way too. So thank you, Jessica.
You could literally, if you're first generation, your parents don't know, you could literally say it's like a school day, like just when you used to go in high school. Just be like, yeah, it's from 8 in the morning to 3 p.m. and then just study and have class. I don't know, just some ideas.
Okay, I think we've all given all of our 2 cents on this. So maybe we can go to the next slide. Okay.
So on campus, there's usually lots of resources and supports systems that are put in place for your benefit. So clubs and organizations getting involved isn't just an extracurricular. They can actually help you with developing communication skills, learning how to network with other people, which is really important. And for example, there's like writing centers. So if you ever have questions about, oh, I don't know what to do about this assignment, like an essay, they can help you like step by step, kind of like give you a guideline of what you could do. They give you tips. So that's really been helpful, especially from personal experience. They have a career services most of the time, and they help you find jobs. Could also help you prepare yourself for interviews. They can help with your cover letters and resumes, and also they could get you informed about internship opportunities. So it's a great asset to get involved in and learn about those opportunities, because you could learn so much from doing, even if it's just a short-term internship, you could probably learn so much about a certain trade or topic that you've been interested to learn more about. Financial aid. There's a financial aid office, and they're there to help you with any questions or concerns you have about your specific situation. So it doesn't take too much. You could probably go to their office and just have the discussions about things that are you're concerned with, or if you have any questions about. Your advisors are there to help you with your courses, and there's specific types of advisors for each major, but that's after the fact that you get into a major. And they're there to help you, so they can help you plan out your classes, but most of the time you have to kind of learn and go through it by yourself, so you can kind of understand how to apply to the courses that you want to take. But they're there to help guide you and give you advice about what classes are there and what classes you may need to take. So for me, at least, I try to make it a plan to stick with going before each quarter. Go to register for classes. I would go to make an appointment with my advisor, and she would give me some options or tips about what I could do for the next class, for my next quarter. And yeah, so there's the library, they're there not just to have a space to study, but they're also, the librarians there are there to help you with any research you may have. And there's specific types of, they're specialized in different kinds of topics. So if you would like to learn more about history, or they could probably help you out and find resources so that they can help you with your assignments. The health services, there's health services in your campus for the most part, and they're there to help you with any questions about insurance and stuff like that. If you're not if you don't know too much and you're new to the school. There's also an information technology department, an IT department. They're there to help you with any kind of technological issues you may have with like computers or learning how to navigate through different kinds of programs that you may need for your classes. And there's also recreational services. At UW, it's called the OWL. And there's like nearby, they do lots of different activities such as hiking or going out and or even playing, I believe, like soccer or at school, which is interesting because you wouldn't think that they would have stuff like that in college, but they're there also to like help you build community in that way. So you could probably help, and it also benefits you because you might be exercising, so that helps you with a great start. If there's anything else my colleagues would like to say.
I was gonna add, like the recreational services, like a good example is at the institution where we attend, they have a weekend where they go to like to a cabin and they just ski. Like you pay like a fee of like $40, or they'll go to like the springs. So it's like super warm and it's like winter. Just experiences like that sound like so much fun to build community. I never got the chance to go. I have really strict parents, but I know like a lot of folks gotta attend and it's super fun. And I would add to health services, sometimes they have counseling services as well. So if you need any mental support, because I have had friends that like they have a family member pass away in the middle of the quarter and it really affects the classwork they're doing, and sometimes talking to someone is really helpful in learning and finding ways to grieve and also do your work can be really beneficial. And also health services, some institutions also have places where they can connect you to apply for like food stamps if you need that, or like insurance or childcare, or connect you with more resources outside of the institution. Like for example, at UW Bothell, they also have a person that focuses on supporting people who have gone through domestic and abusive relationships, just because it's more statistically common in your early 20s, and then how to support you. And then there's also programs of like how to find ways to stay away from that, but it can be really hard. There's like a lot of things that you just have to talk to people. I think it's talking to people. Sometimes your syllabus also has like the places where you can, the supports that they have on campus, or talking to your professors, because sometimes research is involved with some of the resources, which is also super helpful. I don't know any other things. Does anyone else have anything else to add?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about writing centers since I worked at one. With writing centers, a lot of the times the colleges that you choose to apply will have writing centers that can help you before you apply. So like for an example, the Bothell, you can meet with a writing tutor before you apply as a student. So they can read over your application essay and give you really good advice, and also insider advice in a way. They can help you and they can show you what they did, which can be insanely useful. And then another note on writing centers is if you have a bad experience with one writing tutor, I wouldn't shun the center because every writing tutor has a little bit of a different way of going about how they tutor. And I would just ask if you can talk to another tutor. I promise you they will not be offended. And then another thing that I have personal experience with is if you have a disability of some kind, whether that be an invisible disability or a physical disability, I strongly encourage you to seek help from the disability support at your university. There is definitely a barrier when getting a written note from a psychiatrist or from a doctor, especially if you don't have the finances to fund that. But because a lot of universities also have like awesome health services, you can kind of go through the health services of your university and they can help you out to find out if there's any way you can get this written statement about your disability that also works with your financial situation. And I know that there's like a lot of people, especially like me included, who feel like they don't need the disability support. And although I don't use my disability support all the time, it is nice to have it just so that if you feel like a professor isn't going to listen to your verbal acknowledgement of your disability, it is nice to have a department that will back you up and that the professors must listen to. So I strongly encourage to seek help if you need it. And that goes on for like any of these categories. If you need help, there is so much help here for you. And I can't tell you how much the services at UW Bothell has helped me in the past.
I would also add, if you see something you don't see on campus, the place where I do that is like student government. So for example, I have a friend that does lobbying and legislative. So she writes bills for Washington State. And there are certain things like, for example, sanitary pads and tampons that are not available to college students, were not, and today was passed by Inslee. And just things like that. Or I know right now, like there was my friend recently passed a bill on $5 million to students who are undocumented, especially because a lot of them are facing financial loss. And so things like that, and the way in which you don't have to be the legislative person that goes and talks to the senators to advocate for these bills, but you could just go to the student government on campus and be like, I want this and this. I see this need. Multiple of my friends have seen this, and just like in itself, it's like civil engagement, and just asking for things like that can not just help you as a student, but everyone maybe in your institution or maybe even statewide. So I definitely recommend that. Super empowering to see your needs being met at a state level. Yeah.
I believe that concludes our presentation for today. We have a Q&A slide, but since this is a recording, I think that's it.